Well, it's official. I have finished watching the last episode of Doctor Who I will ever watch until the CHIBWHIT era of destruction is over. Anyone who navigates, be they an aircraft pilot or the captain of a great ship, can tell you that a simple mistaken course, uncorrected, grows greater over time. If a plane bound from LA to New York begins its journey even 1 degree off target, it never arrives at its destination. Not even close. And landing it becomes impossible. You're certainly not landing in New York. You're probably going down in the ocean. And this is what has happened to Doctor Who. The CHIBWHIT era began with great promise, but with one single powerful mistake they have driven the entire series woefully off course. And the single mistake is this: the Doctor is not representational. The Doctor is not us, and we are not the Doctor. The Doctor is aspirational and inspirational, but is never, ever one of us. Viewers don't see the world of the Doctor through the eyes of the Doctor. The Doctor is a mysterious alien with 2 hearts and a magic box. We are the companions. And that, for current Who, that is exactly the problem. Let's talk about this. Like and subscribe and post your comments below. I will respond to you unless you get completely shitty with me. Whatever, I probably won't. So, come on. Into the vortex we go. Hey kids, I'm Uncle Tony and this is my Doctor Who rant. It's a long time in the making, so let me promise you this up front. While I am going to be hypercritical of the current iteration of Doctor Who, I can and I will show you the light. I will show you how things could have been different along the way. I'm going to show you choices that could have been made and what those choices would have meant today. And before this video is over, I will show you how everything can be put right again, even from where it's at. Just like a proper Doctor Who episode. So, like and subscribe and let's get down to this. And first, allow me to display some of my card-carrying Doctor Who bona fides. I don't go back to the beginning of Doctor Who, and fuck you if you thought I was that old. But I discovered the Doctor at exactly the same time Star Wars came into my life, and for exactly the same reason. It was the summer of '77. I was a 7-year-old New York Yankee fan, and nothing else in the world mattered to me. I played baseball every day. I watched every game they televised. I even got to go to Yankee Stadium, I think, for the first time that year. So when Star Wars opened in theaters, 7-year-old me had no clue and didn't give a fuck anyway. Our parents were divorced, so my sister and I spent a great many weekends at our grandparents' house. We lived in upstate New York, but our grandmother is very, very British. And from the north, from Leeds. Hello, love. Yeah. I realize now, looking back on it, that she was homesick even in her own home. And that is why she devoured all things English. Seriously, the Princess Di royal wedding, biggest event they ever hosted at the house. We've still got the commemorative plates in the family. And anyway, after the Yankees win the World Series that year, '77, I got nothing to do. My grandmother noticed a movie that was still playing in the local theater, had Alec Guinness and Peter Cushing, 2 names that she knew. And it was just perfect for the kids. So she introduced me to Star Wars sometime in the fall or winter of '77. And she saw how it captured my imagination. So it wasn't long after when she woke me up late at night one weekend, come downstairs and watch PBS. They were showing a repeat episode of a low-budget British sci-fi show called Doctor Who. And I've been watching them ever since. Tom Baker is my doctor, and my grandmother is my memory. Now, why does that matter? You might ask that my grandmother introduced me to Who, or that Tom Baker is my doctor. It matters because that connection to the character has been with me my entire life. Not only am I automatically predisposed by nostalgia to love all things Doctor Who, but I am genetically programmed to respond to my grandmother's voice. Jodie Whitaker has my grandmother's accent. And I mean exactly. She sounds like a young, vibrant version of my grandmother who's been dead for years. And it is a sound that honestly goes straight to my heart. This version of Doctor Who should be a dream come true for me. I should be its biggest fan. I should be beating back the critics, ready to die upon this hill. Instead, I can't even bring myself to watch the show anymore. I'm done. I won't be watching the Christmas special, even if they move it back to Christmas where it fucking should be in the first place. I tell you about my very personal connection to Who, so that you can glimpse the level of dissatisfaction that had to be achieved to turn a lifelong fan like me away. Oh, but it can all be fixed in time. Now look, I am an actor, I'm a writer, I'm a storyteller. I know my way around structure, plot, voice, character, and most especially, I am an expert in the conflict that creates drama. Just ask my wife. I have championed the idea of a female doctor for years. True Who fans have been waiting for it to happen, and the road has been paved more than once, especially with the Missy reveal. Obviously, if the Master can be a woman, of course the Doctor could be as well. And then it happened. In the first episode of the CHIBWHIT era, The Woman Who Fell to Earth, we meet a companion, an obvious companion. The one this Doctor needs. She's courageous, curious, she's protective, she's nurturing, she's understanding, she's willing to put herself in danger. She represents the best of humanity, and she is simply the ideal sidekick for the Doctor. Her name is Grace, and she's dead by the end of the episode. Now, I like subverting expectations as much as the next guy, and I believe this was the absolute right move. Kill the obvious one and make the Doctor form a kind of B team where she has to deal with the more ordinary people and their human inadequacies. Our inadequacies. But that's not what happened, is it? In their attempt to make the Doctor more relatable, which failed, they've also ignored the development of the companions and left them as caricatures. Think of the companions today and ask yourself one question. What do they want? Individually. I mean, I find it difficult at the end of that second Chibnall season to answer that question for any of them. And yet, I suffered a huge, unsatisfying, retconned history dump about the Doctor that's supposed to help me understand her motivations? No! We are not the Doctor. We are the companions. These companions, they're all but forgotten. And that distance is echoed in the viewership and the ratings. This is the problem. The CHIBWHIT era has given us no real eyes with which to see the Doctor. But what would we see if we did? I think Stephen Moffat knew where Chibnall and Whitaker would be most likely to fail, and he tried to tell them. He tried to warn them. Listen to the final message of Capaldi's Doctor. He's not speaking to a companion, not Clara or Bill or even Missy. He's not speaking to himself or the TARDIS. He is speaking a message to the next Doctor, to the person he is about to become.
Laugh hard. Run fast. Be kind.
Of everything in that speech, it's the one thing that gets repeated. Be kind. I wish they had listened. The CHIBWHIT Doctor isn't just callous and cold. She's also dismissive and uncaring. She hardly even notices that the companions aren't there until she realizes no one's around to listen to her talk. When Capaldi monologued for Clara, it was a demonstration of love. When Whitaker does it, it's self-love and the worst kind of arrogance. It's off-putting. It's disgusting. In their attempt to make the Doctor relatable, instead of making the companions relatable, they've diminished the Doctor and turned her into a selfish, self-absorbed, mean-spirited, cowardly asshole who doesn't give a damn about anybody's life except her own. And they've turned the companions into cardboard cutouts that get placed into occasional shots. They got no reason to be there. They have no reason to be there at this point, and I don't know why they are. The real Doctor stands apart from us, an alien without a name, only a purpose. The Doctor is a mystery. That's why the two hearts and the multiple faces. The Doctor is unlike us. The real Doctor isn't just a healer. The real Doctor takes us as companions and makes us better. There's a double meaning there that the CHIBWHIT Doctor doesn't get. The Doctor is inspirational and aspirational, but the Doctor is not us. So, let's start over and imagine this. Graham, Yaz, and Ryan join the Doctor. Let's start with Ryan. Young, otherwise healthy Ryan. He has some kind of disorder which messes with his balance and coordination. So much so that he can't even ride a bike. And since the Doctor doesn't seem to be able to cure him, I assume it's some kind of neuromuscular disorder. So, over the course of 2 seasons, he should have been falling every time he ran, tumbling downstairs, ladders, dropping things, and generally just putting the entire team in danger with his inability to do physical tasks. This Ryan would be a danger to everyone else's safety every time they stepped out of the box, and he would feel like it. Give me 2 seasons of that, 2 seasons of watching Ryan fail, and then I know exactly what Ryan wants. I know that if you want this kind of Ryan to do something heroic, he can do it, but he can only do it once. And you have to build to that moment with a season of failure and danger in order to earn it. He has to fail time and time again until he has no confidence in himself or confidence that his friends will continue to save him from himself. Ryan could have been a great hero in that last episode this year, throwing the huge bomb at the Cybermen and hitting the target, if it had been for the first time ever. And we would have been thrilled by unexpected success. Or he could have died. His arrogance, his hesitation, his shit-talking could have, and frankly, should have killed him. Why? Because actions have consequences. And if one of them dies, it sends the message that everyone else is also in real danger. Like Yaz. Yaz is meant to be a police officer, yet she rarely, if ever, actually does her fucking job anymore. I've always imagined Yaz as a more lawful person than the one they portray on the show. I imagine her as an unambiguous proponent of the law, unjudgmental, but willing to enforce the very letter, and one that carries her authority with her, even on other worlds where it might not be welcome, very Judge Dredd. Always acting as if she were wearing a uniform even when she's not. Always certain of what is right and getting herself into trouble because of it. That would be interesting. Then I'd like to see her get fired. No more badge. Strip her of that Earth authority and force Yaz to contemplate what her purpose really is. What does she want? It's the one question I want all the companions to be able to answer. Does Yaz want to continue being a rogue galactic cop interfering in worlds and cultures that are not her own, while her friends and family and all her loved ones are back on Earth without her there to protect them? Has she finally seen enough of time and space to know where her priorities lie? Look, companions leave or die, and whatever she chooses, that's going to be her fate. If she stays in the TARDIS, she should die tragically to remind the Doctor of the cost that the universe extracts. And if she leaves, she's gone forever, without regrets, back to a life where she has recommitted herself to law enforcement and she's happy doing it. And yay, Yaz would be gone. No, I don't like Yaz. Good riddance. So finally, Graham. Sideshow Graham. Graham the Cracker. This quippy Cockney comedian could be the ultimate test for the Doctor. He could be a great character with real meaning and purpose and a point of view. Instead, they got him fucking shooting lasers out his feet and speaking regional rhyming slang for laughs. Graham loved Grace. Remember her? The ideal companion? He adored her, and he was the first to recognize her brilliance. Obviously, he married her, even before her grandson Ryan eulogized her at the end of that first episode. So Graham should be devoted to the memory of Grace and should be traveling the universe, allowing her moral compass to guide him. And that should lead to a direct conflict with the Doctor, a large moral decision where Grace's philosophy is different from the Doctor and Graham takes a stand. Split the TARDIS down the middle. Lawful Yaz takes the side of the Doctor and Ryan stays with his family. Graham and Ryan versus the Doctor and Yaz, and let the consequences be millions of lives or an entire planet. Make it an impossible choice either way. All of this could have happened on the way to this year's finale, creating real drama, choice, consequence for every single one of the companions through whose eyes we are supposed to see this world and to see the character of the Doctor, but we don't. Oh, God, I'm getting mad. The BBC says that editorially, the series is in great shape, and I can objectively prove that that's not true. A series of weak choices and mistaken assumptions about the proper POV have steered this ship far off course. Let me show you what I mean about weak choices by illustrating the character of the lone Cyberman. Now, we're first informed about the lone Cyberman by John Barrowman's Jack Harkness. Fan favorite, Captain Jack. Long history with the Dr. Jack. Jack who doesn't get to meet the Dr. Jack. Jack has exactly one purpose, and he doesn't accomplish it. No one gives a shit about Jack and the companions. Jack doesn't need to meet the companions, especially if we don't identify with them, which we don't. One shot. All you need is one single shot in front of a green screen. The meeting everyone is waiting for. You don't even need dialogue. Barrowman walks into frame, profile on the left. Whitaker walks into frame, profile on the right. They stop. They look at each other. A beat. Simultaneously, they move towards each other. Cut. The internet explodes. Job well done. Get yourself a pint at the pub. That's it. The memes make themselves. Everybody will be shipping that couple. All right. Get mad. All right. But let's go back. Let's talk about the penultimate episode, that second to last episode, the story of the mysterious baby. The baby is later revealed to be the timeless child, and the child is revealed to be the Doctor. Again, a weak choice. The much better answer is that the baby grows up to be the lone Cyberman, and there are actually two moments to support it. You don't do this or this without completing the symbolic metaphor and make him the big bad Cyberman. But who is this lone Cyberman really? And that is a question I will answer in just a minute. The Master finally arrives, without explanation, but whatever. Takes the Doctor back to Gallifrey, starts monologuing about what he's discovered and why he's destroyed the Time Lords. Turns out he did it because the Doctor is the timeless child, and collective we all said, what? This is, again, an objectively weak choice, weak storytelling. It is a weak, unmotivated choice that confuses the story rather than enlightening it. Why? Because the timeless child was discovered abandoned and alone at a strange portal in deep space. The child is adopted by a seemingly benevolent mother who begins unconscionably immoral experimentation as soon as she discovers the child can regenerate. The child is then murdered time and again until the ability is ripped from its body and installed into a new species. The Time Lords are born, and the child presumably grows up and just keeps having its mind wiped over and over and over again. The much stronger choice is that the Master is the timeless child, which explains all his rage, why he hates the Time Lords, why he destroyed Gallifrey. It explains his mysterious regenerations and his complex relationship with the Doctor, the only Time Lord he left alive. But why? Why does he leave the Doctor alive? Now, real fans assumed that it was the influence of the Master's previous form. She who should not be named or referenced because it's like she never fucking existed. And yet, so simple. In that moment, when the Master is telling the Doctor, if you're trying to appeal to my better nature, I don't have one, all the Doctor had to say was, "Shut up, you. I'm talking to Missy." That's it. A simple solution. Like Jack Harkness, very little needs to be said, but Missy needs to be acknowledged. Let the Master deal with trying to suppress his emotions as those memories exert their influence on him. I mean, the dude loves overacting anyway. I'm sure he could find something to do with a moment like that, right? But let's go back to this timeless child thing for a second and ask the question. What happened after regeneration was stolen from him or her? What use did the child serve after that? Where did the child go? Now imagine that the child was lost or abandoned or perhaps stolen by or even sold to an enemy race. Now imagine the mysterious baby from the previous episode. Imagine that the Cybermen had acquired the timeless child, and they were trying to make it one of their own. But the transformation wouldn't take. It retained emotions, especially anger and ambition. It rejected parts of the armor. They kept having to wipe its memory. See where I'm going? The Master knows that he is the timeless child because of the Matrix, but he only comes to the realization that the lone Cyberman is one of his forgotten identities from that deep, dark past. Now, the episode resolution doesn't require a bomb or a human fucking sacrifice or the Doctor's cowardice. You don't need the stupid Cyber Lords, because the lone Cyberman has to live now. The lone Cyberman has to live because the Master has to save him in order to preserve his own future existence. Drama! And a kind of a circular ending, very much the way Doctor Who likes to do it. Now, ultimately, the Doctor is going to have to come to terms with the fact that a small, stolen portion of the Master is inside of her, which is more compelling than the other way. But she'll be able to escape with companions who now had character arcs of their own and who now see the universe differently because of an aspirational influence, an inspirational influence. Okay. One more thing, I suppose. In that, those last moments of the season when the Jadoon appear inside the TARDIS and take the Doctor away to prison, yes, I was with the rest of us. Like, no one gets inside the TARDIS. Fact. And yet, such an easy mistake to fix. Just knock on the fucking door. Knock on the TARDIS door because the Doctor always answers. The Doctor answers, the Jadoon take her away to jail. That works. And that way we don't need to destroy the history of the blue box in the process, do we? Just fucking knock. The lack of respect and understanding that the CHIBWHIT era has for the Doctor and the companions is also reflected in the disrespect for the TARDIS. Now, we all saw the arrival of a TARDIS with a working chameleon circuit, and we thought it was clever. Oh, British row house, cute. But the second time we see this happen, the Doctor steps from behind a tree TARDIS. It's just a tree. And then I realized why this is a huge flaw. A working chameleon circuit isn't clever. A broken one is. I see it now. A TARDIS, as established in canon, is a living thing with an actual consciousness and, for lack of a better term, a soul. It wants things. It has purpose and self-direction, and every other time we've seen a TARDIS taken from Gallifrey, the chameleon circuit burns itself out on the first transformation. I submit that the TARDIS does it on purpose. Why? So that it doesn't get left anywhere. That tree TARDIS is never going to move again, and that is tragic. The TARDIS stands out to us because it's saying it wants to travel. It needs to be gone from this place. It doesn't belong here. A police box, a kitsch diner, a ranch house. A TARDIS never fits in because it doesn't want to. Oh boy. This has gone on longer than I anticipated. Shit, man, I wrote it out. I thought I'd be able to get through it faster than this. But let's face it. Analysis of the CHIBWHIT failures is the only way to really protect against these kinds of mistakes in the future. And I really do believe Doctor Who still has a future. Look, viewership and ratings don't really matter in the UK. If you're paying a license fee to the BBC for the TV in your house, however, you might be time to reconsider. But while it does not matter how low the ratings drop in England, it does matter how low they go in the US. Now, I don't need to tell Americans to stop watching Doctor Who. They already are. And while this might be a British show, it is also an international commodity. If you lose a market like the US and Canada, you're fucking doomed. Americans, I speak as one, but Americans are not great connoisseurs of quality. We consume a lot of shit in our media diet, but when Doctor Who becomes unpalatable to us garbage-watching Yanks, it means you have served up something truly awful. Look, I was Doctor Who ride and die to the very end, but this garbage storytelling has to stop. Oh, now, I did say there was a fix, and yes, there is. There is a fix. I believe this is the proper Doctor, Jo Martin, the Ruth Doctor. When we first meet her, she's hidden her Time Lord identity in a pocket watch like we've seen done twice before, and she has taken the human name of Ruth. Jo Martin is revealed in this season to be the Doctor. And she has a blue box TARDIS as well. But she has no memory of the CHIBWHIT Doctor. And the CHIBWHIT Doctor has no memory of her. So according to the CHIBWHIT story, this Ruth Doctor is just one of the long-forgotten identities from one of her many wiped memory lifetimes in her distant past. And I will tell you that makes little to no sense, and it's deeply unsatisfying. Why? Because she has a blue box TARDIS, a police box, which puts her after Hartnell in the Doctor's lineage. Because as we've already established, the chameleon circuit burns itself out on its first arrival, and it is very unlikely that throughout her infinite lives, she always gets a blue police box for her TARDIS. But who is she? Where does she fit in? How can Jo Martin save all of Doctor Who? Well, it's pretty simple, actually. When the CHIBWHIT era of destruction is over and the current Doctor, companions, writers, producers, showrunner are all mercifully unemployed, the next showrunner comes in and grabs the footage from Peter Capaldi's last moments. Capaldi regenerates and becomes Jo Martin, the Ruth Doctor. The CHIBWHIT Doctor is explained away as a quantum abnormality that the TARDIS managed to fix partway through the transformation, and don't worry, that other reality has never existed. It's been corrected out of existence. We go straight from Peter Capaldi to Jo Martin with the proper timeline and history restored, and let her become the greatest of all the Doctors. Let the CHIBWHIT era fall into the lost episodes pile where it belongs. And let me have the memory of my grandmother back. Until you do that, fuck you, Doctor Who. I'm Uncle Tony. Like and subscribe, because it turns out I got shit to say.